Hello. You probably know what this video is. I'm sure you do. You just read the opening credits. Shows that I liked that only lasted one season. And I was disappointed that these shows did not last too long because I thought some of these shows had potential. Now, do I think they were going to win any Emmys? No, but they were enjoyable fun. And unfortunately, the ratings didn't agree with me, and they were quickly yanked after one season. Some of these are Netflix shows. I liked a lot of shows that were on Netflix, shows I thought were going to have potential, but nope, they disappeared after one season. That's what happens when you don't bring in the viewers. So, let's get started. It's Your Move. What a title. It debuts Jason Bateman as his first lead role in a show. Now, was It Your Move his first acting role? No. He's acted in shows like Little House on the Prairie, Knight Rider, and Silver Spoons. He had a recurring role on Silver Spoons, and he proved he had such charisma. He just really knew how to light up the screen with his presence, and he does so here in It's Your Move, playing Matthew Burton. Karen Kay plays his widowed mother, and Teresa Cass plays his sister Julie. Now Jason Bateman's character Matt was a schemer and kind of a Ferris Bueller type of schemer. I wonder if Ferris Bueller was influenced off this. And he had everything in his own wrapped around his little finger until Norman Lamb, played by David Garrison, comes around. He is a struggling writer who moves across, and the mother takes interest in him, and for some reason Matt doesn't like him and tries to find ways to swindle him out. But Norman proves he's no slouch because he's just as clever as Matt is. And just the reason why it's called It's Your Move, because they're like two brilliant chess players who could, like, you can outwit each other in chess. That's what the whole premise was. And Jason Bateman really held his own with everybody in this show. He was just awesome. He was just clever. He was just charismatic with everybody. Even the scenes with David Garrison, the way those two play off each other is awesome. I was disappointed this show only lasted one season. I thought it could have gone another year or two, but it didn't. What I like best about Matt is that he was a schemer, but he wasn't selfish. He showed he had a caring heart. He cared for his friend Eli, played by Adam Sobowski, I think his name is. Eli was an unpopular kid, but Matt stuck by him all the time. He would never dump him over for anything. And you think later on in that season, he got used to Norman and his mom being an item. He didn't like it, but he got used to it. And Matt didn't always scheme his mother. He generally cared about his mother and wanted to do what was best for her. He would scheme to help her. I like in the last episode when Julie gets kicked off the cheerleading team because someone tricked her or something, and she relies on Matt to help her. Oh, I just love the way she talks. Matt doesn't want to help her, but of course she talks him into it, saying, "I want someone who can get something done, something only you can do." See, that kind of what inspires Matt to do it. At least in the last episode, Matt was putting his scheming skills to good use. Makes it clear he could have been a great. He probably would have been a great private investigator because he shows what a great Sherlock Holmes he is. I think from what I hear, the show was canceled because they were afraid teenagers or kids would start imitating Matt's schemes. This show is like Ferris Bueller. I mean, how come no one complained about Ferris Bueller? Ferris Bueller was a schemer. So was Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, and nobody complained then. I mean, Zach Morris is no Matt Burton. He couldn't even tie Matt Burton's shoes. Matt was proved he's quite more clever than Zach Morris. Zach Morris could learn a thing from Matt Burton. Oh, I guess it was a different time and people weren't ready for that sort of thing. People wanted wholesome learning lessons sort of thing. Matt did get caught in one episode, but that was it. By his mother, but that was it. But Jason Bateman's career didn't suffer. It had its ups and downs, and it's now doing surprisingly well. So, next one. Automan. And no, this is not a superhero that was from DC or Marvel or any other comic book. This is like the Greatest American Hero. He was a superhero created for the... He was a superhero not based on any comic, which I thought was cool. And of course, being a kid, superheroes were kind of a big thing because back when I was a kid, superheroes were rarely seen on TV. We had a few lucky strikes with the Incredible Hulk and Wonder Woman, but there were other heroes that were just not seen much on the small screen, except for the Greatest American Hero. I think this show was trying to follow in that same format, trying to be a light, funny superhero show. Stars Desi Arnaz as Walter Nebica, who creates this holographic android-like person named Automan, played by Chuck Wagner. And and Automan has all these incredible powers. He can't be killed by bullets. I mean, he's connected to it's like a cell phone who needs recharging whenever he's run down. But he has incredible strength. I mean, he can see through things just like X-ray vision. And I think that and Desi Arnaz's Walter Nebica is pretty cool. I mean, he just has this sort of man who wants respect but never gets it from his captain. And he and Automan are a perfect team. I like in the first episode we only show briefly how Automan's creative, so they don't want a big origin episode. We'll just show how he's created in that one segment, and then the rest of the series goes pretty well. That's what the series does. The series had good special effects, and especially Cursa. He's basically Automan's Tinkerbell. She creates anything out of anything. I mean, she had that cool car that he drives real fast, and then it could create itself into a helicopter, which is pretty cool. I mean, I guess the reason for the car is they were trying to show Knight Rider is not the only one with a cool car. Cool cars were pretty much becoming a big thing in the 80s. And I also liked Chuck Wagner's performance as Automan. When I watch him in Automan, I'm surprised he wasn't considered for James Bond, because he had that sort of suaveness to him that could swoon a lady off her feet. But at the same time, because Automan was unfamiliar with the everyday world, he had a innocence to him, quite similar to Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I think one of the creators calls this show like a reverse Tron, which I could agree it pretty much is a reverse Tron, because look at Automan's outfit. It looks surprisingly similar. I think half the time people didn't really care what the plot was. They just wanted to see Automan and Walter just go on their little adventure and have some fun. They were just having fun with the show. They didn't really care what the plots were. I don't know if the show got canceled due to low ratings or just that it became too expensive, because the special effects were pretty high tech at that time in the 80s. I'm sure if it was made now, I'm sure it wouldn't have been a problem. But back then, I guess it was just too much to go another season, so I guess that's why it was pulled. Okay, that was Automan. Next one. Misfits of Science. Another superhero team that was not based on a comic. I think the show was trying to be a superhero family like the Fantastic Four. Except it's only three people that has powers, not four. Yeah, I thought I really loved this show too. I mean, like Automan, you didn't really care about the story. You just wanted to see these characters use their powers and go on their little adventures, which was cool. Stars a very young Courtney Cox before she became everybody's favorite friend. She was a telekinetic girl. I think her name was Gloria. It's been a while since I've seen the show. I always liked the idea they always had this sort of grayish like effect. Every time she would use her powers, you'd see this gray light flash on her. I think the idea that came from what if Carrie used her powers, Carrie from Stephen King, I mean, used her powers for good and used it to be a superhero instead. And then there was Mark Thomas Miller, who played Johnny B, a former rock star who got badly electrocuted on stage and it gave him electrical powers. Of course, in reality, that won't really happen. It'll just kill you. Most likely kill you if you get electrocuted. He can shoot bolts out of his hands. He can recharge batteries. And he can run about the same speed as Sonic the Hedgehog. Boy, that was pretty cool the way they did that. I thought that was cool, but and then there was L, played by Kevin Peter Hall, who later became known as the Predator. He's a scientist, but he's over 7 feet tall, and because he was not much of a basketball player and has no athletic ability, he was a brilliant scientist. But the problem is, he hates being so tall, so he took a serum, hopefully to make him average height. The problem is, I guess he took too much, and whenever he touches the back of his neck like this, like pressing a button, he shrinks to the size of a doll. And but he can only stay small for about 15 minutes. You know, now that I think about it, I think his superhero name could have been Doll Man. I know it's already taken, but it would have been a cool name. And then Gloria would be the prime mover, and Johnny, he already had his name. He's B-Man. I loved his James Dean like look to him and all that stuff. I think Johnny's weakness was water. Don't remember Gloria ever having a weakness. But and then there's Billy, played by Dean Paul Martin, who is, of course, is the son of singer actor Dean Martin. He is charismatic. He's funny. He's this sarcastic. He has this sarcastic charm to him. I think he was channeling Bill Murray from Ghostbusters, and he doesn't really have any powers. He's basically the leader of the group, and it's like Automan. It probably was canceled over the top effects. I don't know. No, it was mostly canceled because they aired it on the wrong night. Why didn't they do just what the original Quantum Leap did? Schedule it for another night and probably get better ratings. No, they just took it off the air. I was disappointed. I really liked the show and all that. I thought the show could have gone on a little bit longer, but unfortunately, I was wrong. So, because of that, Midnight Misfits of Science was a bust. Next one. I'm sure we all remember the 1984 film Starman, starring Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen. Of course you do. It was one of my favorites. And of course, you know, at the end of Starman, the alien tells Jenny Hayden that she's going to have a baby. And then it ends from there. But so they decide to make a sequel series, Starman. This is not really a. It kind of is recasting, but at the same time, it's basically a sequel. So because the Starman comes back to Earth, because he was called by his son, played by Christopher Daniel Barnes, you probably remember, who was best known as the voice of 90s Spider-Man show. And this time the alien is played by Robert Hayes, who takes the form of Paul Forrester. And like Automan, he sort of still has a likable innocence to him that makes him appealing. I mean, it's basically like if the Fugitive, okay, not compared to the Fugitive, the Incredible Hulk, like an on the run sort of thing. Yeah, the father and Scott, Hayden and Paul and the alien are on the run from George Fox, played by Michael Cavanaugh. Of course, in the Starman movie, he was played by uh, Richard Jekyll. Good performance, by the way. And George Fox is obsessed with capturing the Starman at any cost. He don't care who he has to go through. He's going to capture the Starman at all cost. And I think Robert Hayes and Christopher Daniel Barnes had a pretty good, likable chemistry to them. I thought the show could have gone on longer. I mean, I always loved those on the run sort of things, like they did with the Hulk, and this is pretty much on a similar basis, mixed with a little father knows best sort of feel. And I like the episodes where the relationship does grow, and I don't know. I'm surprised they didn't ask Richard Jekyll if he'd want to reprise his role as George Fox. Maybe they didn't think he'd do it, and so they went with Michael Cavanaugh. And there's a scene where Jenny Hayden does appear in this episode, but it's played by Aaron Gray from Buck Rogers, not Karen Allen. I would love to have seen Karen Allen reprise a role, but I guess Karen Allen doesn't like doing TV. It's not a TV actress. And they left it open for another season, but sadly that didn't happen. So now we're left with a lot of what if guesses, and will they ever find Jenny Hayden again? So, one more thing I got to talk about: the sphere that the Starman in the movie had. Well, this one only has one sphere, and it only operates. That's the source of his power, and it's like his Green Lantern. Well, not quite the ring. It operates by his command, and he also, of course, he can change. He's also tuned. He's like the technology. He can change channels with the whip of his finger. And it's a shame it only lasted one season, because I would love to have seen more where these characters go. So, there you have it with Starman. Next one. Mantis. It was started out as a TV movie, and then it became a show. Of course, in the TV movie, his outfit was different, but they changed it up. Thank goodness, because I'm not saying the outfit was bad in the TV movie, but it looked rather lame. It comes back into play later in the show. The story is about Miles Hawkins, who's a doctor. He's paralyzed from the waist down, and he's played by Carl Lumley. Good performance, by the way. Who invents this exoskeleton that, and when he puts it on and operates it, it makes him feel in his legs. It gives him feeling in his legs whenever he wears it. And he could also have a sort of radar sense in his glasses. I mean, think he can also hypnotize people. I don't know if he could do that. He did that in the first episode, but I don't know if it works in this one. It's been a while since I've seen this show. He has a cool radar of things. He has these little things in his in the hand part of the exoskeleton that could freeze people. And he also has superhuman strength, speed, and agility. He is he is helped by two assistants who are played by Roger Reese and Christopher Garden. Good good chemistry with the other actors, by the way. and uh, and I and he was kind of like a Batman sort of thing. He had his own kind of his bat cave, his own bat car, had this sort of crystalline that he could fly, which I thought was pretty cool. And I actually did I enjoyed this show. I mean, I'd hate to miss an episode each week, and it was also and where did it go wrong? I guess they thought the show was too. I guess they thought the show was lacking enough good villains. So what they did was tried to make them more super villains to fight, more comic bookish like villains. Unfortunately, it ended up looking too X-File-ish, if you know what I mean. So because of that, Mantis was a bust. Not much more to say, but next one. I'm not okay with this. Or am I? Uh, Starring Sophia Lillis and Wyatt Olaf. They both starred in the movie It and its sequel. And I'm glad they both starred in this because the two have such incredible chemistry with each other. What is basically I'm not okay with this. It's basically Carrie, The Edge of 17, with some Breakfast Club and Stranger Things mixed in. That's what this show is. Was it good? Well, I thought so. It's one of those shows that just ends with you wanting more. And you're not going to get more. All you're going to get is what ifs. Show is basically about Sydney, played by Sophia Lillis, who is confused about everything in her life. About about everything. I mean, she doesn't have a real good relationship with her mother, and she has these weird powers that they don't always get explained of why she has them. I'm sure if the show came in season 2, we probably would have got an explanation. Of course, it ended, which you think you're going to get an explanation. You're waiting for season 2. That's not going to happen. But it's a fairly good show about teenage girls and what they're going through, struggling their own identity. It's what Sophia Lillis plays it beautifully. Wyatt Olaf is good as her friend, and everybody else was good too. So I'm not okay with this. Well, I'm not okay with the cancellation. It could have gone better, especially the scenes where she uses her powers. That pretty much sums it up. But season 2 is a nay. Next one. Jupiter's Legacy. It's basically The Incredibles, but like a soap opera. That's what this show is. Basically, a superhero soap opera. And I actually did like this show. I mean, it had great effects, and Josh Duhamel is good as a world-weary superhero known as the Utopian. He has powers somewhat like Superman. Not quite, but somewhat. And the show basically tells two stories. One, how they were doing in present day, and in the past, what led them to get these powers. It was basically going forward and back. Kind of like what Kung Fu did when it would tell the show in flashbacks. That's kind of what this show does. Leslie Bibb was good as his wife, and I liked Josh Duhamel's performance. I mean, I gotta admit, he never really surprised me as an actor. I didn't think he had much going for him as an actor because he was he didn't have much range, but he had range here. He's a superhero who's pretty much world weary, but at the same time trying to hold the code and not break the code. But of being a superhero, but he doesn't quite understand that times have changed, and he's got to get with the times. And there's a lot of few surprises in this episode. I loved his relationship with his kids. He's tough on them. He loves them, but he's tough on them. He wants them to hold their ground and not sink to anything bad. Yeah, I was disappointed the show was canceled because I thought the show could have gone on longer than it did. I mean, it ends with you wanting more, and like, I'm not okay with this. And same thing with Jupiter's Legacy. You're not going to get a second season. You're just going to get a lot of what ifs. What might have been. What might have been. Sorry. So, and I really wanted the show to be to Netflix what The Boys was to Amazon Prime. That did not happen, unfortunately. So, yeah, you know the rest. Next one. Oh, Maggie. Now here's another show I was very disappointed that the show didn't last. I thought this show had potential. I thought it had a Friends-like vibe to it, except but there was a psychic worked in there. And I thought all the actors had great chemistry, and I thought they all played off each other well. But the show was a bust. Oh gosh. I like Maggie, played by Rebecca Rittenhouse. Has a female psychic who is struggling not to feel like a freak, who wants to feel like everybody else, wants to have a relationship with a guy, but doesn't know if she's ever capable of it. But what gets her interested in one particular guy is when she sees herself in a vision, and that sets her on a different path. And I thought Rebecca Rittenhouse had a sort of girlish charm she does bring to the character of Maggie, and Chris Elliott was good as her father and all that stuff, and everybody else was pretty good too. Like I said, it had a Friends-like vibe to it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of y'all liked Friends or How I Met Your Mother. That I felt the same vibe was here too. And I loved when she had the visions. That made the show good. I mean, you get to see what she sees and all that. I mean, but unfortunately, a second season we're not going to get. Bummer. But still an enjoyable show, and I hope somebody checks it out, even though it's only one season. Hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, don't blame me. Okay, next one. Zero. Zero tells the story of Omar, who I think it's basically an Italian show where I think none of the characters speak English, but it's about a comic book artist wannabe who discovers he has the power of invisibility. And he decides to use it when he becomes part of a gang, and then he ends up using it to help his community, which I thought was pretty cool. And this is another show I thought had potential, but the ratings didn't agree with me. Oh gosh, that must be bad luck. I gotta stop liking these shows because every time I like them, they get canceled. No. Yeah, I love the invisible effects when it shows when he's in invisible state. There is this sort of coloring effect around him, and everything else around him is gray. So kind of similar to Lord of the Rings, what the effects they would use when it was gray. And I thought, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I love his friendship with the gang, his friendship and his soon to be his romantic relationship with a female who. And I like the idea that they kind of save each other's life in the end, and I really like. I wish the show could have gone on longer because I thought it was a good show. I wish it ends like it ends. No, I like the rest of these shows. It ends with a cliffhanger. Like I'm not okay with it. Could have explained why he has the power of invisibility, but nope. Series was a bust. Another one, another good show. Lasted one season, just shoo, gone the way to the great wide hope. Oh, brother. Anyway, well, I hope you enjoy the show in reruns. If you ever get around to watching it. 0. Are we switching to the last one or what? Well, I must have saved the best for last. Blockbuster, which unfortunately was not a blockbuster because it was canceled once again. And it was a Netflix show. It was trying to be that sort of old-time sitcom like feel to it, like Cheers, Taxi, or Wings. A show that takes place in this one area, and you get these all characters with their different personalities. That's basically what the show was trying to be like. Another Cheers, another Wings, another Taxi, and I actually did like this show. I really did. I mean, I thought the show could have gone on a little bit longer than it did, but unfortunately, I had a feeling it wouldn't. But it ends once again with you wanting more, and you're not going to get that. And I like the two leads. I thought their chemistry was through the roof. When you see them in a room together, you want them to get together. You want them to get together. It's like, kind of like a Sam and Diane sort of thing, or a Joe and Helen from Wings. That's which Joe and Helen eventually did get together, but Sam and Diane never. There was no happy love, romantic happy ending for those two. No, but you wanted that for these two leads in Blockbuster. You're not going to get it because the show got canceled. And it makes me realize the old days when I used to go rent movies at Blockbuster. Fortunately, those days are gone because there's no Blockbuster around here. People just rent movies by those machines in grocery stores. Some grocery stores, but... Okay, that's my list of the top 10 shows that I liked, but that only lasted one season. So, if you agree with me, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Please, hope you give this video a look. Sayonara. Are you going to roll the credits or what?